Training camp is here, Chiefs Kingdom. You're on another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. JP, Quentin, Caleb. What's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. How are you guys all doing?
Pretty good, just hot.
Real football is so close.
Finally.
So close.
Yeah, we're a month away.
Yeah, rookies and quarterbacks came in today. Tomorrow we've got, real people, players on fields. We got players on fields. So
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Let's start off with this really quick and get off of it really quick. Thank God this whole DeAndre Hopkins situation is over. I'm glad he's gone wherever he went. The Titans, yay for them. What's up, Colin? I think he's going to give him a game. I don't think he's going to help him in any real aspect because they still have the same quarterback. That's on him. He got a fat contract that the Chiefs were never going to give. And, in fact, he got more money than the Browns offered him. So when it all boils down to it. 1 year up to $15 million with the Browns, or a 2 year $32 million deal with the Titans.
Yeah.
With incentives.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew it was about the money. That's where he ran to. So good for him. Enjoy mediocrity. That's all I can say. With that being said, what do you guys got on him?
The only thing I want to say is, and I've said this on countless shows, and I probably need to make a T-shirt made about this already, but either they're going to choose money or ring. Just do the money emoji or the ring emoji. I think that's basically what it comes down to. I would have wanted DeAndre to be here. Obviously that is a luxury, not a necessity. So in order to have him would have been great, and I would have made me personally feel a little bit better about the wide receiver room. But ultimately, he had a list of 3 things he wanted in the organization. He went against all 3, besides maybe the great defense. So again, much as it sucks, but I saw someone have a list on Twitter saying all the players who were linked to Kansas City who never decided to come due to various reasons outside of money and stuff like that. And DeAndre Hopkins is the latest person. It was guys we had earlier, such as Patrick Peterson, many others. And because of it, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, yes, it sucks. But as Chiefs fans, we got to move on. We would have liked to have him, but in the day, DeAndre Hopkins did what was best for him in his pocket, and it was money. So he chose that. I don't think it's going to do much for him in the AFC South. Maybe they win the division. I don't really know, but it's going to be very interesting to see this happen because it looks like a lot of receivers' careers die when they go to the Titans, a.k.a. Andy Johnson, Randy Moss, and many others.
Yeah. Look, man, I don't think they're going to win the division because he went there. I don't think they have the greatest defense. They got a good defense. I don't think it's the greatest. He went against everything. Like you said, he went against all of his quote unquote, reasonings of where he wanted to go and why. Mm-hmm. And he went the opposite direction. What's up, Doug? How you doing, bro? Glad you're here, man. Thank God training camp is here. You are correct, my friend. I don't know. I wasn't. I didn't care either way. I really didn't.
It would have
been a luxury, but I think it would have taken away from other people that really are going to prove themselves this year. I just feel like that's what it would have led to. What do you think, Quentin?
Look, here's the thing. The moves that Kansas City is going to make, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be. Realistically, it's not going to be that big splash, right? Mm-hmm. I think that, unless there's some sort of magical happenings, I do think that there was an opportunity for D-Hop to end up in here in Kansas City. I do think that there were serious discussions about that, right?
Absolutely.
But I just think that everything sort of has to line up perfectly. And, there's a reason why perfect basically doesn't exist because it is so rare. Mm-hmm. So
exactly.
I think the conversations we had about DeAndre Hopkins coming here, I still think are fair, right? Look at what happened with Juju Smith-Schuster 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. The entire offseason was like, is Juju going to come here? He ends up re-signing with the Steelers, becomes a free agent again, comes to Kansas City. And I'm not saying that's what happens with DeAndre Hopkins, but my point is that free agents do come here, right? Sammy Watkins came here, right? When he came to Kansas City, that was a big deal.
Yes, it was.
So Yeah, you aren't going to get the big signing every offseason, especially when you have, a lot of your talent already locked up on long-term deals. But we need to be real with ourselves that Kansas City isn't going to get every big free agent, and they're not going to get most big free agents because most of their salary cap is locked up already in guys like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, etc. So,
well, and the fact that honestly, it really, when it all boils down to it, in the grand scheme of things, it's Veach is never going to pay that kind of money for anyone. He doesn't care what their name is. He's just not doing it unless they are a Patrick Mahomes, a Chris Jones. Then you're going to see him change his tune a little bit. But he's not going to pay that money for a 31-year-old player. We've preached this. I know I have for even all the way back to OBJ and his injury issues. We knew that the Chiefs have been in constant contact with DeAndre Hopkins throughout this whole process. We've known this since day one, and they actually came out and said that the Chiefs were in constant contact with him. We've known about this for months. It's not a matter of that. It's the fact that, yeah, they had interest if he would have came here on the deal that they offered him, which was not $12 million. It wasn't $15 million. It was $8 million. So it is what it is. I was told it was $8 million with incentives. So
what, it would take up to $10 million as well as like a 1 year deal?
Basically, it was going to end up being about a $10 million deal on a 1 year deal.
That's fine.
And he wasn't going to take that when he had $15 million sitting at the Browns with a quarterback he's familiar with. And then he got that fat offer from the Titans, which honestly, he went to a team that has been struggling.
He could say he arguably upgraded just a little bit. I mean, not much, but just a little bit.
I have no quorum with Mike Vrabel. I think he's a good head coach. I think they have systematic issues that they need to get fixed, but they also have a bad quarterback. I don't think Tannehill is the answer to anything. So he went for the money. He knows his age. He knows where he's at. He knows his limitations, and he got the biggest bang for his buck, I guess I should say. And that's fine. Go get your money, dude. We've got a fat-ass room full of wide receivers that are going to do pretty damn well this year. And a great quarterback that can coach them up pretty quickly. So it's not even I don't care.
Not your stressor at this point is what it is.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Really quick, we got 2 players that started off on the PUP list. Deshaun Wharton. I believe Snead is on the PUP list right now. I don't know about Deshaun Wharton and where he's going to land as far as training camp is concerned yet. It looks like Snead will probably be in after week 1. So, in fact, I was just looking at a text and asked. It looks like he may be able to start playing after the first week of training camp, or at least practicing. So,
okay.
Other than that, we can move on. It's training camp, baby. So we got things to talk about. But we also have to talk about the running back. So let's get into that really quick, the running back situation. Who wants to start that off?
I'll take the mantle here. I never thought.
It's like the elf on the shelf. He's just going to sit on the mantle and start talking.
I never thought it'd come to the day where I'd see a professional football player tweet about the Disney movie A Bug's Life. Here we go. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is what Le'Veon Bell tweeted out earlier this morning, and this is his tweet. He says, "Disney a long time ago, 1998, taught me a valuable lesson about sticking together. Go watch A Bug's Life. It'll put in perspective the running back market. The running backs are all the ant. I'm Flick, the innovative ant, and I took all the damage from the grasshoppers owners."
Okay.
Now,
Interesting.
So, look, I understand. Okay. First of all, it's funny. All right. Like, all jokes aside, all right, that's funny. But all jokes aside, I think this is where we are in the running back market. The Saquon Barkley, he turned down a deal, a long-term deal. It was I say long-term, but it was a 2-year deal, and he hasn't signed his franchise tag yet. That yesterday I believe was the last day that they could do it. So Josh Jacobs didn't tweet anything out, or didn't sign his contract. We've got all sorts of players tweeting stuff out. I know Austin Eckler went on CBS radio either this morning or last night and was talking about it. Christian McCaffrey has been vocal. I mean, just anybody who's played running back or is playing running back right now, they're pissed, and I understand why. The other tweet, Le'Veon Bell, I mean, there was a lot. He's been active on the Twitter sphere. But the other one that I saw that really jumped out to me, he said, quote, "It's kind of sad to say this, but it's got to be said. I never thought I would see the day where I'm really trying to persuade a little kid to play a different position other than running back."
Wow.
And that's coming from a guy who played running back and for a time was one of the best running backs in the league and is probably one of the best running backs I've ever watched wait for the right time.
Yeah, his patience is unique.
I mean,
yeah,
his ability, he would just put his hand on the back of linemen and just wait and wait and wait. And you're like, you're going to get smacked behind the back line, behind the line of scrimmage. Then he would shoot the gap and man, he would go. Yeah. So for someone who was so talented at the position to come out and say that is sort of a detriment. It's not sort of, it is a detriment to the NFL and what's going on with the running backs. I don't know what the solution is. I've had conversations with multiple people today even where it was like, what's the solution there? And I don't know because, you know, it's not realistic for players to hold out anymore. That got taken out of the recent NFLPA. Yes, you can hold out, but those fines that they put you on,
they're huge.
They're huge, and they can't be forgiven anymore.
No.
What used to happen is, you know, when a player was holding out for a new contract, they would fine him, and then the player just wouldn't pay it, and then the new contract would come up, and inside the contract there would be a line that was like, "You're good, fam. We don't need those fines."
Yeah, they just put a little addendum in there.
So they can't do that anymore. They took that is now no longer an option for the player. So you can like hold in, you know, where you would go to practice and it's like, "Oh, coach, my hammies a little tight today. Can't do anything." Yeah. But yeah, I mean this Saquon Barkley contract, right? It was $11 million a year, a little bit north of $22 million, and the Giants wouldn't budge off of it, so Saquon didn't sign it. He tweeted out, "It is what it is," which, I mean, it just really, really says a lot about the running back situation.
Hey, here, look, really quick. The running backs, I'm going to say this, prior to 2018, was their value that high? No, it wasn't, because they weren't as versatile. But running backs are coming out of college now with this air attack offense, and they are becoming more valuable. They're more versatile. So, yes, they're worth more money. When you've got a 31-year-old running back / blocker / wide receiver out there that can play the game the way McKinnon plays the game, and then think about the guys that are younger than him, that are out there that are versatile, that can play the game very well, that can come out of the backfield, do whatever you ask them to do. And their longevity's there now because they're not getting the ball nearly as much, unless you're with a certain, like a Titans team that just beats
somebody Steelers
down. Or the Steelers. But that's a rarity. There's not that many teams out there that beat the living. I mean, San Francisco does it a little bit, but they use their running backs in RPOs in the screen game. So these guys deserve to be paid. I'm not saying they deserve, market-changing money, but they do deserve to be paid because to be honest with you, when it comes down to it, they take a lot of freaking punishment in the trenches.
Since
it's that
2009, simple. There have been 5 running backs that had the most rushing yards in the Super Bowl to make more than $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
crazy
right there. That's why running backs are getting paid, because you can have a Super Bowl winning team and not have that guy. And in fact, if you think about it, a lot of teams with great running backs aren't that good.
That's absolutely true. I mean, look at the Titans.
On the Giants. The Giants are not that good of a football team.
Yeah,
and he carried them last year, by the way. If anybody has any doubt in that, go back and watch 15 of their 17 games. He carried their ass.
Christian
So,
McCaffrey carried
he
the
carried-
Panthers for
Mhm.
years.
Yes.
I know he's a Niner now, but he carried the Panthers for years. So
and when he
Josh,
showed up in San Francisco, he carried the Niners then.
Josh Jacobs plays for the Raiders. Enough said.
Carried, yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are just like even Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is that team. So these teams that have, number one running backs or like all-star running backs tend to not be good teams. And that's
Yeah,
because
they rely on him too much.
Yeah, because if you don't have a quarterback, you have to find that athlete to play running back. And if you have that quarterback, you're not looking to draft running backs. You're not looking to invest in that running back position. Look at the teams that invested in running backs in the first round this year, right? It was Atlanta. Okay, Atlanta's not a good football team. So
No,
the one thing I'm noticing is obviously I think running backs should be paid. And one thing I saw, and I think it was Derrick Henry saying you might as well just take the running back position out of the game. I mean, honestly, at this point, they're basically using them and throwing them to the side of the road like a piece of trash. And what we're also seeing is that they're not just being a running back, as JP said. They're being a catch blocker, a catch blocker. They're doing all these different things. Basically play every single position. I mean, you can basically say they're the equivalent of a athlete for those who don't understand the terminology between the high school recruits going to college and they don't fit a specific position. An athlete, they're multiversal, multifaceted. And because of that, we see they get used and used and used. And I've seen over the years as a prime example is whenever Adrian Peterson got cut from the Vikings and signed with the Saints for a year, Alvin Kamara was a third-round pick and was making pennies and outshined Adrian Peterson. They cut him, shipped him off, I think either cut or trade him, sent him off to Arizona. And you see Kamara was eating up for a few seasons. So it just kind of shows you where at this position, I really don't know how it's going to benefit them as a whole for them to get more money, because it's a matter of one person who is great ends up being shipped off. Someone else is going to basically get to a certain max potential, and the same process is going to happen over and over and over again. Obviously, not every team has money to throw these different positions, but what we're going to see is I feel like in the day, if you don't have a running back, a veteran running back that knows what they're doing and is competent and things like that, it's going to hurt. And specifically,
we've heard it because
there
of it,
could
so
also
we know.
there could also be an issue, maybe 5, if this trend continues to happen 10, 15 years down the pipeline, what's going to happen to the running back position. So that's kind of interesting to see too, because they should be paid, but then on the other aspect, you're seeing, well, this is how much team X or Y is going to pay up to the amount. And guys like Saquon, if you're carrying the team, respectfully, in my opinion, you should be making $15 million a year. Christian McCaffrey, when he was with the Panthers, I mean, they paid him. And Quentin brings a great point. Those teams who invest in them don't do well. And it's kind of like those things as a failed business venture where you see teams are buying stock for some of these players and they're not working out at the end of the day. Again, I want this to work out, but ultimately, I don't know what's going to happen. I know they said there's talks with possibly trying to get the NFLPA to help. But at this point, I don't know what they can even do. Now, fortunately, we're probably going to see guys are going to be like Tyreek Hill, running back, wide receiver hybrids, can play both positions. I think that's where we're going to see, and that's what we're going towards, in my opinion, personally.
Absolutely.
Just to all the stuff that's happening, and these guys can't get respect. I mean, if you're getting a running back, wide receiver hybrid and playing both positions, you could possibly make some more money off. I mean, that's kind of what Deebo Samuel does a little bit. Running back, wide receiver hybrid is work for him. So I believe there's some stuff that can happen, but we really won't see the effects for a couple more years, personally.
I think also you hit on a good point. There's a huge problem, and I don't know how this is going to get rectified, especially with guys similar like Saquon Barkley that went through a year and a half of injuries. We witnessed it.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that once we lost Kareem Hunt, there was not going to be anybody to fill his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't anybody that filled his shoes alone, but we had multiple players that were able to match his production to a degree.
And that's the crazy thing.
That's what you're running into right now.
That's a crazy thing, because you would think that at the wide receiver position, you would find the same thing, but 9 times out of 10, it's very difficult. You have to do like your research. But running backs, it's like if I have 20 running backs and I take 5 of them, there's a good chance one of them is going to be a star.
Well, absolutely. And right now, I mean, you can look at the Kareem Hunt situation. You can look at the CEH versus Pacheco situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's not going to end. They're still going to come out stronger and better than they were, out of college, I should say, than what you have on the field right now. or they're going to mask what you have on the field right now. They're going to mimic
Mhm.
what you have on the field right now. So for these guys, it sucks for all of them because Josh Jacobs, again, he had 52 other guys on his shoulders the entire season.
Mhm.
And
He
that will
basically
happen
carried the
again
team.
this year. He did.
Mhm.
And so did Saquon Barkley. Those two guys, if you're a Zeke Elliott, did you deserve $90 million? No, you did not.
Well, no. Well, here's the thing, and I don't know if Quentin would agree with me with this, but we see guys like Zeke Elliott, their career starts off great, and they drop.
Because
A lot of these other running backs, yeah, they start off great and they drop a little bit, but they keep it stable where they should make money. And I feel like we're seeing as a whole, as like a running back, we're not paying you after your first contract. I'm sorry, you're probably going to get a 2-year, $26 million deal, and we'll cut our hands dry if you even get that.
That's part of the problem with the NFL.
No running back's going to get a quote unquote second big contract, or sorry, their first big contract or first big payday.
And that's the problem with the NFL right now is that they're not going to. You got teams out there that are beating players to death. If they don't have depth at wide receiver, let's just throw out an example.
They know that the owners would say, "Well, you know what you signed up for." That's the thing.
I know what I'm saying is that these players, when you say they go down, that's because you have an organization that doesn't know how to draft. They don't have the depth to be able to rotate in and out and keep players fresh, and they're not drafting the correct players. So if you have a group of wide receivers, say you have 5 great wide receivers and 3 of them go down, and you don't have any depth in that area to be able to compensate for that, you don't have a running back room that can go out and play out of the backfield, and not just be a traditional straight line runner, then you're going to play like shit. Your team's not going to do very well. If you have a team, the Cowboys were like that until they had Tony Pollard and a couple other guys that filled some good shoes, which, by the way, Tony Pollard's another example of somebody that's not very happy. But you can't expect – and that's where I think the running backs are coming from is the fact that, okay, because you don't know how to draft, you don't bring in the depth that we need, you want to beat me to death for 4 straight years, and then nobody wants me after that 4th year. And that's what we're seeing with some of these running backs. Then you see, like Josh Jacobs is a great example. Mm-hmm. He was beat to death last year. They ran him in the ground. Saquon Barkley, they ran him in the ground. Pittsburgh's running back, what's his name?
Goodness, you slipped my mind too.
I can't think of his name right now. They ran him in the ground.
No, not Gibbs. No, it's not Gibbs. I forgot.
No, it's not. I can't think of his name right now, but they ran him in the ground. These teams that do that are the reason why a lot of these running backs are pissed off. Because you have a very select few teams that are running it for everybody else in the league, because that market will hang right where it's at until that doesn't happen anymore. When your old school coach mindset is gone and it's not the I'll bring up Marty because a lot of people are using that Marty Ball mentality to a degree, and they're using the running back more than they're using anything else. Mm-hmm. And they don't have a quarterback that can get out there and actually win games with their arm. They don't have the scheme. They're not drawing up the plays. Whatever the case may be, they're not doing what they're supposed to do for their quarterback, for their running back, for their wide receivers, and for their team and franchise and fans. Mm-hmm. So it's that market I don't think is going to change until that old school mentality is gone, because you got guys like Adrian Peterson that played until he was 37 years old as a running back. So that's good. You're going to see a lot more of that because these running backs nowadays are multifaceted. They're extremely well versed in every position as far as the offense is. They can be a wide receiver, they can be a blocker, they could be a running back, they can be a lot of different things. So their longevity is going to be there. And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of that's where the controversy is going to come into. And by the way, all you guys have got questions and stuff, we will get to those pretty quickly. We just wanted to get to this running back situation really quick, and we'll definitely get to all of your questions. But I don't know, man. I don't know if there's going to be an answer to this very quickly, because unless you have teams out there that are willing to look at a player and say, okay, wait a minute, this guy is not just a running back. He is a versatile player that can help us in other facets of the game besides just pounding the rock.
Debo.
When teams start looking at
that's a good point, Quentin.
What'd you say?
Debo Samuel, or
Debo Samuels, yeah,
Cordarrelle Patterson
Yep.
exactly.
in Atlanta.
Yeah,
That's where, if you're a running back, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's your market to make money.
You got to be
Because what you can-
multifaceted.
Yeah, you
Yep.
have to be able to split out wide, and you have to do it consistently enough to where multiple teams can get you that, or you get lucky and you get drafted in the first round, and by the time you're done with your NFL career, you've made a nice chunk of change.
Absolutely. I mean, look at what Larry Johnson made in his career.
I mean, and he got beaten to the ground. You want
And
to
he
talk about a
got beaten
guy
to
that
the
got
ground.
ran into the ground?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Larry Johnson got ran into the ground. He
Mhm.
got
But that was
used.
those were in days when they paid running backs decent money for the time period. They were one of the higher paid offensive players. But yes, they got beat to death because the NFL realized and the teams realized that okay, their longevity, I mean I don't know if it's longevity or if it's their prime, ends fairly quickly.
Well, it's, if you look at this is where analytics getting in sports has been an issue. If you look at if a running back past the age of 30, the decline is insane. I mean, and even guys that get their second contracts, think of the most recent star running backs to get big second contracts.
Yeah. The only one I know of is Zeke Elliott.
Most of them haven't turned out well for the
No.
team. Most of them get cut, or they end up bouncing around the league for the rest of their career.
Mhm.
So Le'Veon Bell, when he ended up going with the Jets, he didn't end up doing anything. The Rams running back,
Todd
Gurley.
Gurley.
Todd Gurley,
His
right?
name messed
Think
up.
of the disaster that was.
Mhm.
Zeke is a great example of it, right? Yeah, for the first couple of years into that contract, he was still fine, but he definitely never lived up to that. So there were just a ton of examples of running backs that once they get that big contract, it's just their body can't physically keep up anymore.
No. I mean, and this is not the day and age of, I mean, honestly, they used to look at running backs in a different, running backs are extremely intelligent and they understand the playbook. They're given a lot more of the playbook now than they ever were before. They had their plays. They knew what their plays were,
Mhm.
and that was it. They were considered, I'm not going to say they were considered dumb players. They were considered one-dimensional players. So they didn't think
Their
they
goal
had
is just get yards in front of them.
exactly. They didn't
Mhm.
think they had the aptitude or the intelligence to be able to play in different positions.
Well,
Now
and we see with the
players can.
scheming and planning back then, it was okay. We're going to leave that to the wide receivers. It's kind of like as we've seen over time, the tight end has greatly, and I mean greatly, expand upon what it once was, and we're starting to see that a little bit with the running backs. So I have a feeling with the running back, it could take the same evolution we see with the tight ends, to where we see you have to be multifaceted, you have to be like a Debo Samuel, you need to be guys like a Brandon Ayuk, individuals like that can play in the inside and the outside, and can do multiple different things. And you also need to have not one running back, but two or maybe even three. If you're not going to pay them, you need to make sure you bring two or three in case someone gets hurt. But the issue we're running into over time is that we're seeing a lot of these running backs, like you said, they just get run to the ground, and then there's nothing you can do, and then they end up being moved around the league.
Yep.
I mean, we see
And
it happen.
they're getting $1 million contracts for 1 year deals for the next 3 or 4 years, and then they're
Mhm.
done.
And that's chump change to what they should be making due to workload versus pay. I mean, it's like you're basically having to do all this overtime money, and they're not getting paid. That's pretty much what it looks like it comes down to.
Sounds like UPS. But anyway, moving on. I don't think there's going to be a quick answer to any of this. I don't think this is going to be something that happens this year. I don't think it's going to make, by these guys doing what they did and Jacobs not signing his deal or signing his franchise tag, Saquon Barkley not taking his extension. I don't think it's going to make a difference this year. Like you said, Caleb, I think this is going to be something that we see in the offseason that changes a lot of things. Some of the older guys, and when I say older guys, I'm talking about guys like Saquon Barkley that are 25, okay, that, had some injuries, or guys that were ran into the ground like Josh Jacobs was and will be again this year, because they don't really have
There's no team chemistry or delve around them in order to help prolong
they don't have the
careers.
weapons. Yeah, they don't have the weapons. Yeah. So it's it sucks for those guys, and I understand it. They're the ones that take most of the punishment, and wide receivers get paid more money than they do. So, we look at Pacheco, and we know what he can do. Clyde was an injury risk. Clyde also had, I would say it was more or less other interests besides playing the game of football. That wasn't his only interest. So you weigh that out and you go, okay, well, we got a guy like Pacheco that loves this game, can beat the hell out of the ground, and then also catch out of the backfield, and we're going to get him to that point where he's catching, balls 40 yards downfield. You got a guy like McKinnon that can do that all day long and still run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Can open up a lane just like anybody else or run through a lane. So it's just going to be a difficult situation. And I feel bad for these guys. I love Saquon Barkley. I've wanted him in Kansas City for years. Even when he was injured, I was hoping we were going to sign him, and we were actually considering it at one point. And I thought we were going to sign him. I really did, but it didn't happen. So, it would have been a great addition to this team. But anyway, I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a quick fix to any of this. But do you guys want to answer some of these questions really quick, and then we'll move on?
Yeah. Why don't you rapid fire them here?
Let me see. So Doug is the one that started this off.
Can you put on the screen too, please?
Yeah. Doug said, yes, the DT room kind of worries him with Wharton on the pup list. Just don't feel that the depth isn't deep enough for deep enough. Your thoughts? I think personally we have a lot of depth there. I think we're going to bring in a veteran player to help fill some of that void once this whole Chris Jones deal gets finished. But I'm not as concerned just because Wharton is on the pup list. I feel like we have a lot of depth in that area. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm pretty confident in our defensive line.
I'm pretty confident as well. I mean, I really like some of the moves that were made with Monahu and many others, especially guys like Corborn coming in, replacing guys that we had in the past. I think it's going to be fine. We really won't know what happens until we get out there. But I would say it looks like the defensive line group as a whole has gotten better from what it was last year. Yes, we don't have Frank Clark and we don't have guys like Colin Sanders, but some of the additions that we have brought in, I believe, can really, really help, especially guys look like maybe they're more hungry than other individuals in the past. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen there. Yes, also concerning about Wharton. He was a rotational piece. So it looks like he's going to start his season on the pup list for training camp. I know he got injured early, so I would imagine he would probably start playing. He may have a shot for playing in week 1 or anywhere between week 1 and week 4. But from outside of that, the Chiefs could easily make another move. As Quentin and JP and I have talked about numerous shows ago during the offseason, there are multiple great defensive linemen or edge rushers on the free agency that no one has touched. So yeah. I believe we're still early, and I'm not saying hit the overreacting button or the panic button. Just give it a week or two. Let's see how things are going in camp, and then we'll kind of see what's going to happen from there.
And we'll see if that trade actually goes through that they've been working on too. So
we can hope.
Yeah, we can only hope.
I think, I'm not worried necessarily about the depth just because I know there are, like Charles Omenihu who can play defensive tackle and defensive end, so you're good there.
Mm-hmm.
We know Derek Nottie is a quality defensive tackle, right? He's not going to blow the doors off the water, but every team needs a Derek Nottie.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Shelton is still on this roster.
Absolutely.
Good about him. And we haven't seen him play in a Chiefs uniform. We saw him put on a very small Chiefs uniform last training camp.
Mm-hmm.
He's so big that they literally didn't have pads big enough for him. So I'm not worried about it because we have versatile pieces that can play multiple spots on the defensive line. And as long as you don't go through just brutal injuries, which would affect any position, I think the depth there should be fine. Especially Tershawn Wharton. Even if he's not back, at the beginning of the season, he'll play this year. So I'm not worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'll rotate it out. And Danny Shelton, believe me, he was biting at he was just.
That's Super Bowl champion Danny Shelton.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Champion.
He was ready to play last year. He wanted to play. There was some injury issues when we signed him and put him on the practice squad. That's why he was on the practice squad. And then they didn't have, as much as this sounds strange, They didn't have any place for him towards the end of the season. But actually, from about week 7 on, they really didn't need to yank him off the practice squad at that point. So why not give him an entire year to be completely healthy and come back? And right now, I think he's still number 2 on the depth chart behind Chris Jones. So I'm okay with him, starting. I'm okay with that. I've been waiting for that. Caleb and I have been talking about that since, prior to the beginning of last season.
Yep.
And the man takes up 2 roster spots. He's a huge bastard. He got like a 72-inch chest. So I he's a monster. I can only imagine what an offensive lineman thinks when they have to go up against somebody like him. He's just so freaking big and strong. I feel like we're in pretty good position with that.
Just a casual 340 pounds.
Yeah, not much. Okay, Doug. Next one you got in here, and Chiefs Live. I see you had a concern with it as well, worrying about Noddy and Colburn. Colburn may be a rookie, but he's a good rookie, and I think that was a good acquisition. Noddy, we won't know. I mean, he's not below average. He's just very. He's another rotational piece that had a lot of injuries that didn't turn out exactly what they thought he was going to turn out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he may. We don't know that yet. He was slipped in a couple of times when he shouldn't have been, simply because we had no depth. And I think that was, during his injury phase. And I think that was part of the problem, is he didn't completely heal. So we'll just have to see how he turned out, during this training camp situation and moving forward from there. Anyway, Doug, you said something about, and I agree with you 100%. The quarterbacks on Netflix was an excellent Chiefs Kingdom. It was excellent. The Chiefs Kingdom is lucky. Blessed to have Patrick Mahomes. I absolutely agree with you. I did want to touch on this a little bit, if you guys don't mind, because I watched the entire series. People that got upset about Mahomes cussing, whatever. If that bothers you that bad, then don't watch football, because it's a sport, and that's what people do. What got me the most, I think, I took 3 things out of that entire show. One, I have so much more admiration for Patrick Mahomes than I did even before. And the fact that he was able to when Andy Reid said, "I'm going to pull you out," and he said, no, fuck no. I mean, I couldn't believe he said that to Andy. I was blown out of the water, because I didn't expect that from him, but he's such a competitor, and he's such, I don't know. I mean, I guess competitor is the only thing you can come up with. His determination, his competitiveness, and his drive to win is absolutely insane. His will to, and the way he works out and puts himself through every different style of recovery effort when he is injured. I mean, he's had 3 ankle injuries. I mean, people don't realize that, because he's done so well through those injuries.
You need to get some stronger ankles.
Yeah, that would be a good thing. Or people, 345-pound men need to quit rolling over him.
Yeah, if we could work on that. That's I hope that was the off-season programming. Get stronger ankles, man.
That's probably what it was. That's my guess.
I imagine as well. I mean, also, and you got to remember, one of our own players did him
for his ankles.
That wasn't. And I'm still
ankle
mad
weights.
about that.
Ankle weights.
Ankle weights. I'm still pissed off that one of our own players hurt his ankle, but
AP, that's like 5 years old. You gotta let it go.
But it was still an ankle injury.
Yeah,
that
come
didn't
on,
hurt.
Elsa.
All right.
Let it go.
But anyway,
Let it go.
I was waiting for that. I agree with you. The other thing I took out of this is I have look, I was never a Kirk Cousins fan, simply because when he left Washington after a 6-year stint, he had a losing record overall. And he got an $84 million fully guaranteed contract, and a very short-term contract for $84 million. At that time, that was a lot of money to pay somebody fully guaranteed that had a losing record over his career. Yes, he threw for a lot of yards. Yes, he threw for touchdowns, but he wasn't the guy that got you over the hump. But after watching the show, looking at his mannerisms, how he interacts with his family, he's a very spiritual guy. He reminds me of Alex Smith in so many ways, except for one. You never heard Alex Smith get up off the ground after an injury and go, oh, ow, ooh, all the way to the huddle, all the way to the bench. That's something that Kirk Cousins does. It's a little bit annoying, but he's a good guy. He's not a bad person. And I think if you look at guys like him, and I want your guys' opinion on this, you look at guys like a Kirk Cousins, you look at guys like an Alex Smith that have the same mentality, they don't have the drive and the determination and the wherewithal to be able to put themselves out in a position to win the big games. They're the ones that you tend to go, God, that's just the guy I don't want, because he just doesn't have that mentality. Yeah, he's happy when he wins, but he doesn't put himself out there, and he doesn't have the aptitude to be able to take it to the next level, especially with a guy like JJ that is over there just destroying the NFL. And he just isn't that guy. But I took those two things out of that show. And the other third thing is that Marcus Mariota is another guy that is an extremely well-rounded individual mentally. He makes mental errors during the game that he can't come back from. And he can't get it out of his head. And I think that's something but I like the individual. I actually like him as a person. And he's a very mobile guy. When he makes those errors, those hurry up and rush him errors, or when he's in a pressured situation, he has a really hard time getting past it. He can't get that play out of his mind. So I don't know about you guys, but I agree with Doug. We are absolutely blessed to have somebody that has that much determination, football IQ, raw talent, God-gifted talent that no one else has ever had. We're just pure lucky. I don't know what else to say. What do you guys think of that? If you watched the entire series, I did, so I binge watched the whole thing just to, get through it. And
I'm on episode 5, I believe, so I've seen most of it. I think that the Marcus Mariota stuff, looking at what the media was talking about, him like abandoning his team and then getting to see the behind the scenes stuff, I think it really sort of adds a new layer to it.
Absolutely.
The Murphy door for Kirk Cousins is like showroom, his like trophy room is pretty badass. That's
pretty cool. Yeah.
And it's very cool that he did that.
What kid didn't want a Murphy door bedroom closet to hang out in, or just like a club? Okay, it was like treehouse Murphy door, like those. Exactly. That was the list. Okay, so he gets that Murphy door. That's pretty cool. Little awkward when he's talking about putting the Lombardi trophy in there, because that's not going to happen. But yeah, I think what sucks and is good about these things is that they humanize these players. And like that's great in the moment. It's great to humanize Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes. The problem is it makes my life more difficult later in the year when I got to talk about how bad these players are, or like when they make a mistake, and it's like, man, it's going to make it harder for me to and knock on them, because like now they're more human to me, and it's like it's going to make it more. I'll do it. Don't worry, Kirk Cousins. You fuck up, I got you. I'll
I'll defend you.
But man, these documentaries, anytime we can get the behind the scenes stuff, whether it's on Hard Knocks or this is probably the best mini doc.
It got renewed for a second season.
I think this is on par with the Last Dance that Netflix did. I don't know if you guys ever watched that. That was the Jordan one. That one was really good. There's a lot of similar vibes there. I mean, it's really good. Obviously, I haven't seen it all the way through, but I know how it ends, and it ends pretty great.
Yep.
Yeah, it ends very well.
Also, just like, how lucky did they get? right? That they had three totally different storylines going into the season. You had Marcus Mariota, where he eventually got benched, and you see the drama that goes there. You've got Kirk Cousins, who has one of his better years, right, on an offense that we didn't know what it was going to be. New head coach, new system, everything like that. And the star of the show wins the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, by the way, I want to say this really quick. I have to take some of the flack off of Kirk Cousins for last year because I don't care what anyone says. Arthur Smith sucks. He is not a good head coach. And I think him and Nathaniel Hackett hang out in the offseason because neither one of those guys should be head coaches. I'm sorry, they shouldn't be. When you have players that you have on that roster and you can't get – you had a very, very easy schedule for the most part, and you won a lot of games, but it wasn't because of your coaching. Your coaching led to a couple of losses and then some terrible plays that went on during that season. If you watch any part of, not just that show, but any part of their season in general. So I think that they need to really consider figuring out a way of finding a new head coach. That's going to happen. I think he's in the hot seat this year anyway, after what went on. But anyway, what do you think, Caleb?
I agree with everything. I agree with everything you guys are saying for the most part. I mean, we got to see all the behind-the-scenes footage of what was going on key games, not only from Mahomes, but kind of see who's Marcus Mariota was. If you guys saw, he was a Heisman Trophy winner, went to the University of Oregon, went all the way to the national championship game, lost, was a first-round pick, second pick overall by Tennessee Titans, had his job, got taken away. It just kind of showed us see what these quarterbacks do on a regular basis, and I'm happy to see they're renewing the show for a second season because there's a multitude of different players they can kind of look at, and maybe we're going to see different understandings of what different quarterbacks have to go through. It was also interesting to see all three of them had a family. Two of them had kids born that year, so to kind of see the behind-the-scenes footage shows how much time they sacrificed. People love all the time to complain about how a quarterback in general doesn't do good in the game, or in their fantasy they lose because they threw an interception. At the end of the day, they're humans and they're doing a lot more things besides football. Football career goes like that. It goes by like that. And because of that, you can play from, let's say, 23, 24 to, let's say, the most is 35, 36, maybe 37. And then you have the whole from 38 or 45, Quinn. Yep. You have, on Tom Brady's case, he may live forever, but 37 up to, let's say, 85, 90. What else are you going to do? So we're seeing that these players have to live with the issues and all the things that happen after football. Kirk Cousins was playing with a pretty nasty seam rib injury. Mahomes was playing the ankle. Mariota, he probably had to deal with a couple things. So it just shows you these issues and problems that the players deal with, not only in the football field. That's kind of the escape for a little bit till they have to get back to reality, like the song, Back to Reality, where they're having to deal with the issues of life. I mean, yeah, someone can make millions and millions of dollars, but if they're having family issues, that's going to affect their play. We've seen it case in point with many different NFL players. So it's great for me to see them be humanized and people understand they just don't throw the football. Their husband, their father, they do all these different things.
Yeah. One thing I will say, I did say Kirk Cousins, and I did mean Marcus Mariota when I was talking about that. I did disagree with this, Chiefs Live. We may not agree on everything, but he may have one of the best run game schemes in the game, but this isn't a run style NFL anymore. Yeah, that's been a problem. We just talked about that a little bit ago. Yeah, Mariota had his problem where he missed certain guys, but also he was under a lot of pressure. And when you're under a lot of pressure, you tend to
and plus that team really wasn't. They're in a rebuilding mode.
They are.
That team was in a rebuilding, and Marcus Mariota was to basically kind of hold the torch until they thought Desmond Ridder was ready. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was for. Until it came to a point where we see is like, you know what, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let Mariota sit. We're going to see we got Ridder. We're already in the hole. We got a top 10 pick. Let's just see where things goes.
Yeah, and here's the thing: if it's a game, if a coach is one-sided, I'll put it that way, with his run game abilities or calling abilities, I don't think that's where you need to be. You can't do that in this day and age. You can't. I mean, there's a lot of guys out that are defensive-minded coaches or offensive-minded coaches, but you have to be able to open your mind. And I don't think he did. I think he kept his mind closed. The offensive line wasn't that great. Kirk Cousins was the most pressured quarterback in football last year, if anybody wants to know. He didn't have the most sacks, but he did have the most pressures of any quarterback in football last year, and he still did a pretty good job of it. And I feel like Marcus Mariota has had his, and I agree with Philip or somebody, I think it was Philip. Yeah, Philip said he had no confidence. He did look like he had no confidence, and I think that's part of what he dealt with at the beginning of his career and how he was basically benched for someone else.
Bad situations.
Bad
You can be a 99 overall player, 105 overall player, but if you're on the really bad team, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. And that team, the Atlanta Falcons, have been trying to figure out since the infamous 28-3.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you. Doug, he said, okay, one other question he's got here really quick. Do you guys think this is the best linebacker core we've had in the last 10 years or so? What are your thoughts? I would have to say yes. I feel like it is because they're multifaceted. They're versatile players. They're very athletic players. What do you guys think? I'm going to leave it that my comments to a minimum and let you guys go.
I agree. I think this is one of the best linebacker cores ever since we see with the guys like Derrick Johnson and many others. I mean, we have guys who are versatile, fast, and can move all around the field. That's what the Chiefs need. Ever since Derrick Johnson got hurt on a Thursday night football game against the Raiders in Arrowhead when he tore his Achilles, the Chiefs were not good at the linebacker position. It took many years of bringing guys in like Kevin Pierre-Louis, taking guys out, bringing guys. I mean, it took a period of time until the Chiefs started investing in getting quality guys. We brought in Anthony Hitchens, kind of help in the Super Bowl era. Then they bring in guys such as Willie Gay. Then bring in guys like Nick Bolton. And then making sure you have other individuals that were there. They're slipping my mind. And then we're bringing in
Leo Chenal. You got guys like that.
We have Darius Harris. We had guys that were there beforehand. I can't remember names, but it's been a steady progression to what we have now, where this linebacker group is pretty solidified. You have guys that can go after runner. You have guys that can go on the passing game. I mean, the Chiefs are in a very great spot to solidify as having one of the best linebacker rooms in the league, just based off the drafting alone. No, not even just grabbing free agents, but drafting the guys at perennial spots, spending back-to-back years getting a second-round pick in a linebacker, spending a third-round pick in a linebacker, finding a guy on the free agency or the practice squad that can fill in. Different things like that has allowed them to do really, really well instead of throwing 4 years, $6 million at a guy.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Quentin?
Well, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy.
You love to be that guy.
Yeah. The linebacker core, it's hard to compare over the last 10 years because we used to run a 3-4 defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in the old defensive scheme, technically, Justin Houston was a linebacker, right? He was a lefty. He was a left linebacker, not. So, I don't want to. I just think that they're two different schemes. So, going back 10 years might be a little bit too far. I will say, though, that this linebacker core, this middle linebacker core that we have is extremely athletic. We know what Bolton and Gay are, right? Mm-hmm. Leo Chenal, the Chiefs are very high on him. We know that from the playing time he got last year. He was damn good in coverage, which is impressive for linebackers because that's sort of now what we label linebacker. Like, that's what you have to be good at. Linebackers coming into the NFL, you're going to be good tacklers because you've been doing that your whole life, right? You're going to be, pretty good at reading and hitting holes when it comes to stopping the run game, right?
Filling in holes, yeah.
It's how are you going to be in the pass game is really when the questions start. And we know that those three linebackers right there are all very good at what they do. And if an injury happens to them, we know that Leo Chenal can come and step up and at least hold the fort down for a little bit. So, I do think that this is a very good linebacker core, and I think that it is going to be a strength of a defense, and I think that it's one of the reasons why this Chiefs defense might end up being the best that Patrick Mahomes has had.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if you can get better than 11th overall from last year, Yeah, that's pretty damn. That's the best he's ever had. Because last year was the best he ever had. I mean, it is what it is. And by the way, I remember we had a discussion with somebody. I don't remember who it was about the Chiefs having one of the worst 31st ranked defense in the NFL in 18. We did. We ended up 27th overall, but we were ranked 31st for most of that season. And if anybody goes back and looks at the AFC Championship game, which I've watched over and over and over again from 2018, and then watching it more during the quarterbacks Netflix special, I look at that situation and it just pisses me off even more. The D Ford thing, yeah, he was all hand inside, okay, but that would have been a warning for everybody else during that time frame. That would have been a warning for anybody on the Patriots team. The Chris Jones call twice was terrible. Allowing certain plays, one call was, you're welcome, Doug. There was a couple of calls that, where the ball touched the ground. And they called it a catch for Edelman. They didn't call it a catch for us. There was a certain things that went on during that game that it was just such bad play calling, mostly on our side, against us, I should say, that we should have been in the Super Bowl that year, but there was a reason why we weren't. I'll leave it at that. We've gotten past all of that. We've gotten rid of some of those players. You had Justin Houston on that team. I think people forget that Justin Houston was on that team. So, and he played fairly well during that game. I agree with you, Caleb, and Quentin. Going 10 years, you might be right. It may be too long. But given the fact that we are just a totally different linebacker core as far as athleticism, a true linebacker core instead of, again, like you said, when you switch schemes, you got players that play multiple positions versus playing their position. We have true linebackers now that are true linebackers. And I think they are probably the best as a true linebacker core that we've had in a very, very long time. So, that being said, what else we got?
I think that's it.
That's it?
Yep, that's it. We'll get newer stuff Thursday. What we hear and see tomorrow and Thursday morning.
Yep. And also, we may, this guest that keeps saying he's going to come on, if you're listening, I hope you're listening, get your ass on the show because, you are a Miami guy that thought Tua was supposed to be the MVP last year. So we got to get that discussion out of the way. So hopefully he's going to come on Thursday. He said he is. So we will see how that works out. But we want to thank Foco Sports for helping us out with everything. Make sure you get in on the giveaway. It's got a few more days and that's going to end. So go on our Twitter page. It's our pin tweet. Make sure you enter. And with that being said, we will talk to you guys again on Thursday. Peace out, everybody.